Episode 2, Amuse-Bouche, written by Jim Danger Gray, directed by Michael Reimer. Will Graham and Jack Crawford visit the hunting cabin of Garrett Jacob Hobbs to find it filled with antlers and hunting gear, but they also find a stray hare left behind by tabloid journalist Freddie Lounds. Jack Crawford suspects Hobbs' comatose daughter Abigail of being involved in her father's murders, but Will is not convinced. At Jack Crawford and Dr. Alana Bloom's insistence, Will is assigned Dr. Hannibal Lecter as a psychiatrist to ensure that he does not stray too far into instability after the trauma of killing Hobbs. Again, Will is not convinced. Dr. Lecter rubber stamps Will's return to the field, but encourages them to have conversations so that he has a way out of dark places. Meanwhile, 9 corpses are discovered that are being used as fertilizer for mushrooms, a crime scene that is overlooked by Freddie Lounds. Miss Lounds is also discovered by Dr. Lecter to be attempting to trail Will and secretly record their sessions together, to which he insists she delete the recordings. The FBI team determined that the mushroom corpses were being fed sugar water and that the killer was using diabetic victims to sustain his mycelium crops, leading them to track down suspect pharmacist Eldon Stamets. Though they fail to locate him, they do save his next potential victim and stumble across a tattlecrime.com article by Freddie Lounds, where she has written about Will Graham, insinuating that the FBI is using a psychopath to catch other psychopaths. Unimpressed, Jack Crawford pays her a visit to insist that she doesn't write any more articles, revealing that he knows that she tampered with a crime scene. Freddie Lounds is then accosted by Eldon Stamets, who shoots the police officer who came to see her about her using the information he provided. Stamets demands to know where he can find Will Graham, who he believes, from Freddie's article, will be able to understand him. Eldon Stamets attempts to kidnap a comatose Abigail Hobbs so that she can become fertilizer for his mycelium, which he believes can give Will Graham access to connect with her, but is accosted by Will and shot in the shoulder. In a final conversation with Dr. Lecter, Will reveals that he is not sure if he was intending to kill Stamets, and is frustrated that he has not been given the stability he was promised. Finally, he reveals to Dr. Lecter that he enjoyed killing Garrett Jacob Hobbs. This is Fate and Circumstance, a Hannibal fan podcast, where I, a Hannibal-obsessed nerd, talk to 2 of my friends who are seeing the show for the first time. I am Felix Fanfaron Fern, and these are my 2 co-hosts.
Melisa.
Hello, and I'm Shaira Bambi.
Hi, how are you both doing today?
Good.
Excite. I've been excited all day.
But still sad that we haven't seen gay sex.
Yeah, I need some gayness from both Will and Hannibal, please.
Give it time, it's the 2nd episode.
Just gonna be wanting it each week.
Yeah.
So, just general overall impressions, what did you think of the episode compared to the first one?
Shrooms. So many shrooms.
Yeah, a bit more weird and a bit more creepy, but a bit more complicated. Yeah, the shroom hands were pretty gross, giving The Last of Us. But also this now I'm mad though, because this fucking journalist bitch.
Oh god. Oh, don't get me started with the redhead, but we'll probably talk about them further ahead.
I think Freddie Lounds is going to come up a lot during this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, give me your purse. Give it to her. I was like, delete it. And I was like, oh, yes, sir. Anything else?
As always, I have a ridiculously over-the-top list of talking points that have gone kind of in chronological order of what happens in the episode. So you'll have to think back, which will be fun. So first one, this one you may have literally no thoughts on it, which is absolutely understandable. At the start, Jack Crawford mentions that he suspects Hobbs' daughter Abigail, who's the girl in the coma, of being involved in the murders of the girls that her father killed. It's very early on days for this. Will considers the idea vulgar, as does Hannibal, but he also thinks it's entirely possible. There's not a lot to go on at this point, so do you have any thoughts on Abigail being involved?
My first reaction was like, whoa, what? Abigail is suspect? I don't understand how? But then there's, especially when with her dad just killing her, it's like, if they're both in it together, why kill her? But yeah.
I mean, people in those kind of situations just get fucked up anyway. Like, if you're in that kind of place in your mind, then you're just gonna do anything, aren't you? Like he's gonna kill his family with no fucking second thought, which is wild. But it gives me weird vibes, like something's being set up, like some kind of narrative is being trying to be written to. I'm still on this thing of like, I think someone's trying, or a group of people are trying to write a narrative to stir Will off because they know how clever he is and how he's figuring shit out. Like the whole copycat thing, I feel like, you know, that and this, like, oh, it's Abigail, like, or whatever her name is, like, she's involved with it. Sorry, I'm really bad at like.
You got it right. It is Abigail.
That's big for me. Anyway, like, yeah, I think it's just a bit of a. I feel like it's a bit of a coy. I don't believe it.
Yeah, it's probably something for the viewers to kind of go, think about. But yeah, but I don't know. I kind of want to be positive and say that no, Abigail isn't actually involved with the killings. And I want to be positive, but then I know, then kind of like this whole show feels like it's just going to fuck Will over continuously. So it could happen.
Same.
But yeah,
I literally feel the exact same.
I agree with the notion that I do think it comes a bit out of the blue from Jack Crawford. I don't think they give much explanation as to why she would be involved or why anyone would be assisting him. I suppose other than the idea that I can't remember it's really emphasized much in this episode, but most of the bodies haven't actually been found. The exception being the one body they deal with and the copycat. So I wonder if that's maybe something to do with it.
Oh yeah, I think I wrote like one piece of note, like a cannibal association, because there was like a part of similar scene. It was like, what if because Jack's saying like, what if Hobbs wasn't eating alone? It's like cannibal association, is Hannibal involved? Is that why? Like going back to the first episode, is that why Hannibal warned I forgot his name now, Garrett? So
Garrett Jacob Hobbs. So maybe the Abigail thing could be a red herring kind of thing?
Yeah, that's exactly what I think. Red herring to kind of throw us, the viewers, off of the fact that, actually, it could be a underground cannibal ring.
I love this idea of there being a cannibal ring.
This is what I think. I think man's running a whole like operation. He's got his minions out killing because he's too sophisticated. Like that bit where he was like cutting up the lungs and that, and he was in a nice suit and everything. Man's too sophisticated. This is what he was doing back in early days. He was going out and getting his victims, like getting his hunting in himself. Now he has his own people, his own minions to go out and do the dirty work for him, bring it back, and then he gets to eat and prepare his food. He's got no blood on his hands.
I'm not going to say anything negative or affirmative, but I do love your theory. We'll see.
We'll see. Yeah. Like,
if that ain't it, then I'm throwing it out the window.
I also kind of like, knowing what I know of Hannibal from the very little that I kind of like I consumed through like YouTube shorts and stuff. Not the actual TV show, the movies and the books. That Hannibal is kind of a lone rider, so could potentially be just completely wrong, but I kind of want to believe that there's a cannibal thing going on.
Yeah.
Obviously, without giving anything away, I think it'll be very interesting for us to have this conversation again after episode 3. To see where your thoughts are on that. So, also in this episode, as we have mentioned, we are introduced to TattleCrime.com's tabloid journalist, Freddie Lounds, who in the script actually considers herself a criminal justice reporter. What are your first impressions of Freddie Lounds?
Shut, bitch. Needs to fucking get out of the way. Shut up.
Another person that I fucking hate already. Oh my god. She is so annoying.
So, general consensus, bad Freddie Lounds. Or naughty Miss Lounds.
And Hannibal's words, you've been a very bad girl, Miss Lounds.
Yeah, I feel like if you really respected crime and all of that stuff, you wouldn't be going snooping into a literal crime scene, and you wouldn't go and lie to police just to get information. Like, you literally lied as one of the mothers of the boys that are probably going through a traumatic experience as finding dead bodies in the way that they did, and you're lying, you're pretending to be the mum of one of those kids. That's just fucked up. Like,
really upsets me, and I kind of
Yeah.
know why Freddie upsets me so much. She reminds me of all journalists in kind of our world who care so little about people and the communities that only like they only get off of that story that they need, and or they do it for like personal and financial gain. It just harms everyone, and we have too many of those kind of journalists in this world, like those who harm trans people, queer people, BIPOC people, and other people without an area of thought. It's something that kind of that really grates me, and I guess that is her character. That is what she's trying to portray. One of the things that pisses me so much about about her character. And I'm on we're on episode 2, so I'm looking forward to being even more pissed off by her.
Right.
You'll definitely be more pissed off by Freddie Lounds. I think, to me, that's what makes her an effective character. She's not inherently a villain, but she is an antagonist. And she is very comparable to actual tabloid journalists. I think that's why I like her as a character, because she's unlikable. And I like that. If a character gives you such a strong reaction, it makes you feel such a way, I think that's a very well-produced character.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
like Joffrey from Game of Thrones.
Yes.
Everyone hated Joffrey, but that's a really good character.
So there's the scene where Will is teaching his class about catching Garrett Jacob Hobbs, and basically boils it down to luck. And he gets applauded, and he seems to struggle with praise and recognition. I was wondering if you had any thoughts on why that is, whether it's that he genuinely thinks his work hasn't warranted praise, or if it's something else, like if he's just uncomfortable with it, or...
I was like, yes, king, my autistic king. Same.
I was just like, same, but also it's just so funny. Like, you feel, I almost feel bad laughing at him in a way, because like they're all there just like, yeah, you did so good, and he's like, stop, that's inappropriate, and like he's so serious about it, and he said that with chest. But it was just so funny, because it's also like a little bit like, oh, come on, like, you deserve the praise. Like, obviously it's a real thing, you know, not being able to accept praise. I definitely like that at times, but it's just the way that he said it, and he was just so serious. And I just thought it was quite funny.
I understand why he didn't accept the praise, because of the fact that it's literally he feels like responsible for Abigail, and couldn't capture Garrett in time. But yeah, and obviously in real world circumstances, I don't think if I was ever like an investigator, I don't think I'd ever want praise for capturing a killer, because it just feels so, I don't know, disgusting to me.
Yeah, I feel like it's very like circumstantial. Like, it's technically like such a big thing for him. Like, he was out of the force, he quote unquote got too close. Like, he's suffering and fucking going through it, and they're all like, yeah, you did so good, and he's like, please leave me alone.
I suppose in a way that's kind of comparable to like police forces in general. There seems to be a lot of praise for like getting justice, but it's actually quite horrible a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So that scene also leads on to the therapy conversation with Jack Crawford and Alana Bloom. Will says that therapy doesn't work on him. Do you think he's maybe had experiences with therapy before, and that's why he says it doesn't work on him? I mean, he has an empathy disorder, so it's probably quite safe to assume that maybe he's had bad therapy experiences, but he also teaches about things like psychoanalytics, so maybe it's because, like he mentions, he knows all the tricks, so maybe he thinks it doesn't work because he understands how it's meant to work. Any thoughts?
It was difficult for me to kind of like analyze that, because I want to believe that therapy works, and that it's because you don't let it work that it doesn't work. But as someone who's kind of gone through different forms of therapy, and also kind of has like an intrinsic interest, special interest in kind of like psychology, sometimes just knowing the tricks does make it like difficult for therapy to work. Because people kind of like almost try to use like psychoanalysis or some kind of like tricks to get you in a certain mindset, and it tends to almost backfire on you if you know it works and know how it works, because you're like, oh, okay, yeah, you're just trying to do this, so I'm not letting you in. But then that thought in itself might be the thing that is making it not work.
Yeah, kind of sort of stemming on from what you're saying, maybe knowing how things work is a way of therefore not allowing it to work and not being open to it working. Like also having been through therapy for anxiety and stuff, it's for something like that at least, which I think anxiety can be very prevalent in a lot of situations, very much in something like this for sure. I feel like it's one of those where you do have to be open to it for it to start working. Really, you have to be open to listening and to allowing it to happen for it to actually take an effect. So I do believe there is a part of like, because he's closed off from it and immediately writing off that it quote unquote doesn't work for him. But the powerful seductive ways of Hannibal will lure him in, and then they'll just get really too close and, oh my god, I thought we were going to kiss.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, then let's talk about Hannibal.
Yes.
So I've written far too much about this. I think there are 3 Hannibal Will conversations in this episode, if I remember rightly. I think there's 3, or at least 3 main ones. So I wanted to talk about Hannibal's therapy tactics, or what you think about them. He initially rubber stamps Will, which indicates their conversations aren't actually necessarily by obligation, and that he's inviting Will to have autonomy in their interactions. Might be kind of like, I'm going to do this for you regardless, so while you're here we might as well talk. Which is something that Will later even observes may have been a poor move, because he thinks that maybe he was rubber stamped too early with his mental health as it is. However, Hannibal also tells Will that he has fantasized about scenarios where his actions may have allowed a different fate for Abigail Hobbs, and you could argue that it's his actions that led to her fate, which suggests that he's open to lying or deception. So, what do you think about his tactics with Will so far?
He's getting it out of him. He's getting the truth of how he really feels, and all this like, oh, it doesn't work. I mean, it's bullshit, because already saying and admitting things to him. You naughty boy.
I think he's playing the cards that Will has dealt him, because Will, like you said, Will, previously we just talked about Will saying therapy doesn't work on him. Kind of like he's trying to like almost use tactics that he thinks Will isn't, / tricks that he thinks Will isn't privy to, and like, oh, you know what, just rubber stamp him, get him to open up to me instead of forcing Will into any kind of form of therapy. But you know how Hannibal is, very manipulative and very sneaky with all of his kind of things. So maybe it's something more darker. And I seeing this show, seeing the last 2 episodes of the show, definitely think it's much more darker.
So would you say it's not necessarily that Hannibal is being outright manipulative, or no, let's say he is being manipulative, but maybe not that he is trying to lie or deceive, but rather he's saying things that aren't necessarily true because he knows it'll get the right reaction out of Will, that maybe he's using slight lies like about Abigail Hobbs because he knows that that's going to be therapy that is going to work.
We were talking about this last time where we said Hannibal kind of has a special interest in him, Will already, because I thought he didn't, but then when you mentioned something regarding, I forgot the last episode, regarding the coffee scene, I want to believe that it's Hannibal trying to be a good therapist at this point.
Me too.
I'm going to ask you a question, which is, I know something about Hannibal's thoughts, not necessarily his intentions, from the very first episode. Would you rather not know that, or would you rather know it? It's something that doesn't come up in the show.
Ooh, I'd like to know it.
Is it something that we can work out, or is it something that we find out?
I would say no.
So it's not something we explicitly find out, it's something that you figure out on your own?
It's something you would only know from the cast outside of the show.
I'd like to know.
Hannibal falls in love at first sight in the first episode. What that actually means, because Hannibal is a difficult and strange person, doesn't necessarily mean it in the traditional sense. But I'm saying it because you could suggest that it supports your idea about him being interested in
that's exactly what I'm thinking. Like I didn't want to assume that he was interested from the get-go, because sometimes TV shows like to develop that relationship. But with Hannibal being so Hannibal, I was like, yeah, maybe he has already developed an interest, like he would his like his taste, his food.
I mean, well, what I would say is it's something that Mads Mikkelsen has confirmed is the case, basically. That's his interpretation of Hannibal as a character, is that he falls in love at first sight. However, that doesn't mean it's a romantic love or a sexual love or a platonic love. Hannibal loves beautiful things. However, that also means that you could compare Will to an inanimate object.
I've compared Will Graham to inanimate objects already, because damn.
He is a work of art. The next talking point I have is just how about their mushroom corpses? I mean, this episode is the first glimpse into it being like a procedural. So, the mushroom corpses is kind of its own big thing. So yeah, I just wanted to know what you thought about them, the design, anything.
Like cool in a weird way. So I'm feeling like this show is affecting me already. But yeah, no, I thought it was like weird, creepy, interesting.
I thought, wow, these cannibals have a really, really kind of diverse way of being cannibals. Like, not only do they eat flesh.
Well, why are you associating them with cannibals?
This is the first thing because I thought it's about the TV show's about a cannibal, and that's Hannibal. So, and we know that the previous killer ate their victims like livers. So I was like, maybe it's cultivating the mushrooms and giving those mushrooms a cadaver taste.
I mean, I don't know if it ever suggests that Eldon Stamets eats them, but also it's very abstract, his relationship with the mushrooms. So it's kind of hard to say exactly what he does do with them. He believes he can connect with them and that they connect with the corpses that they're feeding from.
Exactly, and I don't know. When I first saw them, that was my reaction. Was like, oh, eating the mushrooms, because that's kind of what I wrote down. Eating the mushrooms. And I was like, that would be on point for kind of the show. But then I think it would be too much like on point if every single killer was a cannibal.
It's a very intricate like system and very clever, very well thought out. Almost insanely scary how clever these kind of people are. I mean, like the guy was a pharmacist or whatever it was. Like, so it's like these really clever people that study and then they just somehow go down this road. Like, it's crazy because you want to it's weird. You go into a state of like, I want to admire this person for like how clever they are and how it's almost an art form. Like, it was really well done, but then you're also weirdo. Like, you literally just put some people, didn't kill them. Then, oh my god, when the bloody zombie ass looking person started moving their mouth, like being like, I was like, oh my Christ, this is literally like The Last of Us.
Jump scare.
I was gonna say, I think that's one of the very few examples of an actual jump scare in the show.
Yeah, for real.
I think it was just put into fuck with Will, really. Poor Will getting all of the trauma.
I would say if you found the mushrooms like quite visually cool, I don't know if it had any influence, but it always reminds me of MPD Psycho, which is, as you can probably tell by the name, not a great and somewhat problematic series, but is also quite old. It's a manga, and also there was a TV show directed by Takashi Miike. And one of the most well-known images from both the show and the manga is a guy who buries corpse and leaves the heads above the soil, where he opens up their skull and plants flowers in their brain. And visually, it always reminds me of that. It's quite similar.
That's really cool. Yeah, no, I have to check that out. No, I find fungi very interesting anyway, and visually appealing. Especially if you kind of, like, with what I know about them, I kind of see past what they are as a front page thing, and how I will talk. I think the killer talks about this later on, and how kind of that interconnected they are. So I kind of really like fungi, and also fungi being similar. I think I forgot what was scientifically they're quite similar to us as humans.
Their mycelium is really strange. They're one of the weirdest life forms to me.
They chat to each other.
They do.
Yeah, they do.
It's
kind of weird.
Let's go.
Yeah, like trees do as well.
Yeah.
I don't know why there's just something especially strange as mycelium, because you can't grow them like normal plants. They have to be grown a specific way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is always super interesting.
Well, it kind of reminds me of that kind of whole tree system. I forgot what it was, that is interconnected so much that they're one big fauna, not just one tree. They're one big fauna.
Yeah, that is pretty much what mycelium are like. They're more like one entity instead of multiple.
They absolutely are. Yeah.
So I wanted to talk about Beverly Cats. because I am Team Beverly Cats. I love Bev. So in the first episode, we saw her being a little bit cocky around Will. She kind of interrupts what he's doing and doesn't care about it. But in this episode, she helps him with his shooting posture. And when they're in the lab together, she tends to be the person who's a little bit more encouraging of the observations that he makes. And I also wrote that Dr. Alana Bloom says in the first episode that she's never been alone in a room with Will, because she's aware of his instability. But Bev is also aware of this. She says it to him in the first episode. She's seen firsthand what he does, which Alana hasn't. But she still goes to him alone and speaks to him. So what are your impressions of Bev?
I love Bev. Like, I just saw her first time. Like, that was the first time in the last episode. She's so cool. I need to see more of her.
Is this the one? Yeah, she was there in the first episode as well, in that bedroom crime scene. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
At first, I wasn't too sure about her because in that scene, I was kind of like, girl, you just interrupted and went where you weren't supposed to go. No one told you to go there. Why the fuck are you interrupting his flow? And with the whole, he technically isn't autistic, but, you know, like, the signs are there. I got very naturally, like, as a reflex, defensive. And I was like, leave my baby alone. Let him do his thing. Let him do his cool detective shit. You fucked it. You fucked with his flow. So I was a bit like, yeah, I don't really like you there. But then that scene with in the shooting range was kind of cute. So I was like, okay, yeah, you're redeeming yourself a little bit.
I was like, hands off Hannibal's queer lover.
Yeah.
Hands off him.
I really enjoy the fact that Bev is hands-on, kind of unquestioningly. Like, in an ideal world, always consent
Yeah.
first. But I really enjoy the fact that she overlooks his awkwardness in a sort of like, in a grounding kind of way, to kind of assert herself as, I'm not judging you, kind of thing. She's not scared of him.
It is brilliant because a lot of like that. I think that's quite kind of why I fell in love with her the more here, is because like you, like, as autistic people, myself and you, Felix, we know how it is to be that weird person, and it's nice to have that one person come out and just kind of like offer a hand and go, you know what, you're weird, but I dig that. I think you're super cool. Or like you're just a normal person to me.
Yeah, she doesn't treat with kid gloves.
Yes, you're not kidified. I'm not kidified. What's it called? Infantilized. I always forget that word.
It's a complicated word because it makes me think of infanticide, which is very close and very different.
Yeah.
And also, I assume there's a lot of like unintentional sort of like natural subconscious treating you in a way differently, and she just basically making the statement of like, yeah, no, it's whatever, I'm gonna like give you that like extra attention in a way of like, you know, you deserve to be like looked at and treated the same way as anyone else, if I'm making sense, but also I'm not gonna treat you like you're like a different person just because you do stuff in a different way to others.
On topic, off topic, I also picked up pencil information and my brain was like, you are so autistic. Like just correcting Beverly on the lead poisoning. Like, nope, pencils are made out of graphite, they don't have any lead in it.
I love that comment. It's so silly. And the fact that Will, again, in a very autistic way, responds in a very straight-faced way.
Absolutely.
As though, like, yeah, no, she's probably aware of that.
Yeah.
She probably is, yeah.
I think what we're saying actually reminds me of the first episode a little bit as well, where, again, Hannibal mentions that Jack sees Will as fine china, as a delicate little teacup. And again, that's not what Bev is doing. I think that's what lots of other people do, including Alana, from what we've seen, but Bev doesn't.
Infantilizing him, whereas Beverly just goes, you know what? No, you're just a normal but weird being, and weird is normal.
And it's just like, cool, there's another weird dude.
Yeah,
Anyway.
it's the delicate part of it. Yeah, everyone's sort of like treading on eggshells and being delicate and all of that stuff when that's not what people want. Yeah. I don't want to speak too much on behalf of people that aren't me, but I'm trying to say that I recognize it of just, yeah. Like, people can be a little bit like tiptoey around my brother. He's not non-verbal, but he's not as verbal as you and I. Like, he will need to have some prompts to get some words out, which, to be honest, same. I can't be asked doesn't talk to people. Like, he only really will speak out if he wants something, like he wants to eat or he wants to watch a video. And I'm like, you know what? Same, bestie. And people will tend to be like, wanting to be very childish with him, which his mind, sort of like the way that he is and the things that he enjoys. Yes, it is a bit younger, but also you can just be like adult with him as well, like in certain times. And I kind of recognize that in the sense of other people where they probably want to, I can see where Will is probably enjoying Bev's company in a way, just because she's just like, just gonna talk to you and chat to you like I would anyone else, and I'm gonna give you that attention because I like you and I think you're cool, and not gonna be the way that other people are. Like, everyone is so sensitive with him, of just like, don't get too close. You said he wouldn't get too close, all of this, and like very much like, which obviously they should look out for him for sure, but it's also like, let the big boy do his big things.
Yeah, at the end of the day, he's still an adult.
Yeah, I don't think Will particularly does. I don't think Will particularly doesn't like that, because I think later on in this episode, he's very happy to be with Alana, and like Alana at that point just is kind of babying him, but at the same time, it's like, oh no, just read to me. I like you reading. Keep reading.
There's something I didn't write about too much. I think Will and Alana have an interesting relationship. And at this point, all we really know is they've worked together. They're both sort of teachers. Well, she's a psychiatrist as well. But they are colleagues. They know each other. She likes Will. She said this. She likes Will. But she's also never been in a room alone with him. But we will find out a lot more about how Will and Lana get on. I do love the hospital scene where she is reading. And also, can we just talk about how incredibly adorable Will is asleep?
Oh, yes.
Oh my god, so cute!
I know I've got a script note for this.
Such a pretty boy.
I was going to say, is there any kind of like funny directions for that? Wrapped up like a little baby burrito, safe in his mother's arms, theoretically.
So a little bit of extra information is one that's not so interesting, but Alana comments on the Freddie Lounds article, I couldn't believe she wrote that, and Will responds, it's kind of hilarious, which I kind of wish was kept.
Oh god, that's brilliant.
But a really interesting bit of dialogue is that Will asks her, am I making you nervous? And she responds, no, I'm making me nervous. But
so it kind of comes off as like she knows Will isn't the problem for her, and it's her that she's the problem. She can't get past a certain thing with her and Will.
The other script detail, which is that after Alana puts a blanket over Will and he wakes up, it says he realizes he's been covered with a blanket and likes it.
Oh, precious baby! God, that man is
not sweet. He's very comfy and legitimately enjoys her reading. And as we're talking about it again, I have another piece of information for you about that scene.
So much information, heck yeah!
So Alana is reading to Abigail, right? The book that she's reading is it's a collection of short stories by Flannery O'Connor. That's who she's talking about, who raises peacocks. The specific story she's reading is called A Good Man is Hard to Find. Would you like to know the plot of the story that she's reading to Abigail?
Oh, okay. I feel like I know it by the title.
The story of a family of 6 which, on its way driving to Florida, is slaughtered by an escaped convict who calls himself the Misfit. Why is Alana reading that to Abigail, whose dad has just tried to kill her?
Interesting.
Alana, what the hell? Maybe Jack told her something, and she's now thinking, yes, Abigail's a suspect, but that's a very fucked up thing to do to someone in the coma who's a potential suspect.
Quite a few people have been talking about this very recently. Honestly, I think it's totally harmless. I think Alana means well. Someone in a coma. I think it's probably just Brian Fuller or another writer was a fan of the book and the author. I don't think there's anything to it, but it is very weird.
Probably, and or maybe also that's the only book she was carrying at that time. It's like, oh, you know what? I only have this book.
I have a talking point here, which is just, why is it so funny that Dr. Lecter has an iPad?
Because you'd expect to out a fucking scroll and feather.
Yeah, he's an artist. He does a lot by hand. He's very fancy. He's aristocratic, and he does everything. He always has fucking tattlecrime.com out on his iPad.
As he likes beautiful things, and sometimes Apple products are
He
quite
loves his
beautiful, even though
beautiful
I dislike
iPad.
them
I
myself.
just want to see him on like a
I
whack out a
love
watch and be like, oh, need to close my rings today.
I love his stupid gay little iPad.
I think he needs to kind of archive some of the stuff online digitally. He can't just have everything non-digitally. So maybe he's like, oh, you know what? Fuck it. I'll have to do one thing that I buy this stupid digital economy that we're
It's
getting
not like a
into.
fancy phone or a laptop.
Yeah, do
it's
you know
an
what
iPad.
it is though? It's the energy of the dad with the kitten that he said he didn't want. He is the dad with the sort of up to date modern day electronic that he said he didn't want, but now he's like really into it.
I fully support that. Yeah,
I love
fully
that.
support
He's
that.
just like, look at it. He's one of those where he takes his glasses off, puts it on his head whilst he's looking down at the iPad, trying to really look into it. Then he's actually really enjoying it, and he just stays there for ages. And you have to like shout at him a few times to get his attention away from it. It's like, well, you were chatting shit about that fucking iPad a few months ago. Now look at you.
There's like, as someone who reads a lot of Hannibal fan fiction, I confirm so many people love to write him laying in bed with his iPad. I just don't know why. But everyone imagines him just like curled up in bed, just looking at his iPad before he goes to
Exactly
sleep.
the
I love
kind
that.
of fan art I want to see.
Is
Yeah, that's a good point. Loads of fan fiction. I want
Yeah.
fan art of that.
Will a screensaver?
I bet.
Oh my
I've got
god!
them both
Can you
on my
imagine like
tablet.
a
So
little comic strip type thing of like the top and bottom, like the top image is him just like looking in his iPad, and then the second one is like a view of his iPad, and it's just a photo of Will like as the lock screen.
I won't give any spoilers, but I will say there are things that happen later on that would suggest that is absolutely something that Hannibal Lecter would do. You'll find out why, but yeah, I fully believe that he would do that. I have a talking point here. It's not actually a talking point. It just says, why do I need Dr. Hannibal Lecter to call me naughty?
I want Dr. Hannibal Lecter to call me naughty. I really do. Especially after the scene later on.
Fucking patting the couch. Don't know what it is about him patting the couch.
Patting the couch. Mm-hmm.
More appropriately, we were talking about the hospital scene. Swiggity Swag, it's the nightmare stag. You might not have any thoughts on this, I don't know, but I'll ask anyway. Do you have any thoughts on the stag's reappearance while he's asleep?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he sees it walking
stag.
through the hospital.
Oh, that's wild. I'm just thinking like the levels of deep like trauma and the way that's affected him. I was like, fuck, like it looked really cool visually for sure.
Mm.
Like, but God, if that was me, that would really fuck me up. I would be like, I need help.
I think I know the line that he says. I think he said something. He's brought something back with him.
Mm.
Line. Maybe something that's what he brought back with him, and now it's like his a haunting spectre to him all the time.
I have another question for you, which is my bonus question. Did you notice what the small statue is near the door in Hannibal Lecter's office?
I think I have a vague
No,
yeah,
what?
I have a
I kind of
vague
need to
thing
go
of
back and
like
watch
I
this
think
now.
I can picture that there was one.
Can you remember what it is at all?
No, I remember
No?
seeing the deep,
No,
big
no.
presence of like deep red colors. That's what I was noticing more.
I was too busy staring at Hannibal.
Oh,
I'm sorry,
well.
'cause I just
Never mind, I suppose. I guess
What?
we'll never know. So the next talking point is
what?
What? You're not just going to tell us? I'm gonna go. I can go back to the
Yeah, same.
episode and watch it right now.
I would explicitly recommend not looking for it because
Okay.
I would say you've seen it.
Was it a gargoyle?
Okay, so
It wasn't a gargoyle. I would love if he had a gargoyle in this room.
okay, that would be brilliant. I kind of on point for Hannibal.
I just wondered if you happened to notice anything.
No, okay. Well, then I will.
You can go back and
will-
look for it, but I would personally recommend no. It'll come to you.
I like subconscious imagery, so I'm just going to keep it in the back of my head that I will look out for something, but not to look out for something.
So my next talking point is we get little glimpses into Will's history in this episode. He talks about being an ex-homicide cop. We know he got stabbed in the shoulder, and also that he used to fix boat motors in Louisiana. I was just wondering if you have any thoughts on that. Like, how does that fit in with what you know about Will so far?
Can you imagine him just like rough and ready on a boat doing important shit?
Oh, he's kind of awkward and nerdy and wears glasses and he's a teacher. And now we know that 1, he was a cop. 2, he got stabbed, and 3, he used to play around with boats.
How did he go from that though to where he is now? Was this like, was the boat thing pre-police work, I'm assuming?
It was, yes.
He's so fucking autistic. Like, I'm sorry. He's so fucking autistic.
I was saying this to you, like, the whole autistic trait of liking to take things apart and put them back together again, and that's the vibe I get from Will. And that's why he likes boat motors.
Yeah.
Motors and inanimate objects and machinery are not complicated like people. You figure it out, you can pull it apart, you can put it back together again. You don't have to imagine what the purpose is behind it or what it's thinking about. And that's what I kind of associate with Will when he mentions he's into stuff like that. To me, it makes sense despite everything. It seems weird, but it also makes sense.
And I guess there's no like ambiguity with stuff like that. There's sort of like, and this goes here and that goes there, and that's like right and wrong, black and white. Probably easier to comprehend than people that are a bit like ambiguous and a bit like, you know, don't say what they're actually saying.
It makes so much sense that he has a special interest in boats.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Hannibal said something about this and I just checked. Yeah, he says a boat engine is a machine, a predictable problem, easy to solve. You fail, there's a paddle. And then it moves on to our next talking point, which is the paddle analogy. So Will says, you're supposed to be my paddle. And Hannibal says, I am. Is Will, someone who claims that therapy doesn't work on him, trusting in Hannibal? Is it a good idea for him to rely on Hannibal to provide him with stability the way that he is?
Absolutely not. But I think that's what we know as as viewers, because we know Hannibal's a cannibal, especially because of all of the media past. Like, no, absolutely not. But if I was to say it as Will, yeah, I would definitely like rely on Hannibal. Hannibal seems very more put together, and everyone needs a put together. Everyone needs an adult.
Everyone needs
I thought it was a little bit phallic, a little bit like suggestive and a bit sexual. Like, no, you're supposed to be my paddle. I am. Like, oh, you want to use me to ride me? You want to use me to ride something? I don't know. I'm just wanting the gay sex, and I'm just pushing the gay sex narrative. I'm not gonna lie.
Don't worry, I also want it.
I would argue, I love this conversation. To me, it is borderline romantic. It's not intended to be romantic, but there's that idea. A partner is someone who is there for you, is your stability, is your rock. It's the person you can rely on. They've gone from, I don't find you interesting, and not wanting to make eye contact, and that very awkward yet flirty breakfast, to them having 3 conversations where now Will is saying, you were supposed to be my paddle. I think that's quite a big kind of character jump from the first episode. I think that their dynamic has shifted a lot.
Definitely.
Yeah, and this is coming at the end of this episode, so it's kind of like, oh, both of them are, like, as you said earlier, Mads thinks Hannibal falls in love at first sight, and Will is kind of falling for Hannibal slowly, and at this point, kind of like going, yeah, you're
definitely letting his walls
paddle.
down. Yeah,
it's kind of cute. It's really cute.
Being like, oh, you're supposed to be my paddle. Basically, being like, you know, you said like I rely on you. You're meant to be there for me. You're meant to be helping me through all of this. So he is, going against a bit of his word and just sort of letting it happen now.
Yeah, I think before this, he said, as Felix mentioned earlier, it's like you must have given me this too early, this rubber stamp too early.
Yeah, he's gone from like, I think you maybe shouldn't have done that, to, well, actually you are supposed to be helping me and I kind of expect you to.
Just because you said that's what you would do.
To me, it's the first sign of trust. As I say, there's kind of a romantic connotation to it, but not necessarily like sexually romantic, but I consider it the beginnings of maybe friendship.
Yeah.
And then it comes to, I liked killing Hobbs. So I want to know your personal interpretations. How do you interpret that statement?
It's weird. It's very weird. It was like his demeanor changed.
I'm on the opposite side of that. I think it's a good person doing a good thing who realizes, you know what, I can like this. I can like killing I hate using the term. I like using the term good, but I don't like using the term evil, because evil makes something sound much more grandiose. And I don't think evil is grandiose. Evil is plain and normal and something that everyday people do all the time. Good is so much harder to do. But yeah, I think it's just a good person doing a good thing and enjoying that he did a good thing and finally patting himself on the back, from what we saw previously where he goes, no, stop that, I don't want patting on the back.
I feel like it was strange because it was just the change of demeanor, the change in his voice. It was almost like a stereotypical thing of like something within him having being unlocked, and it was just like everything about him was like a little bit different. He was also like very visibly scared to say it as well, and he was just like, I liked killing hearts. I was just like, oh, okay, bestie, like what's happening here? Like it was like I wanted to watch, but it was also a little bit uncomfortable as well, because it was just like, what is this side to him? Like, what is happening right now? I just thought it was like Hannibal had like literally just done his therapy thing, and he'd like unlocked this or this different Will. Like, it was just like, oh, we got a bit of a confession here already. He's good at his job, and Will just admitted that he liked killing somebody. Okay, cool.
Would you like to know my opinion? I think you are both 100% correct. I think you both are right. I think that it's okay for it to be both.
I definitely see how it's both.
Yeah. I like more black and white things, but I can kind of get it.
I think, I mean, we can see how obviously the series plays out, but my interpretation from the episode standalone by itself is that it is both. I think that Will Graham is a just and good character. He feels good because he is doing the right thing, even if that thing is painful and terrible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, true.
But in doing it, he is having to realise something about himself.
Yeah, he's scarring himself.
Yeah, that thing he's realising is not necessarily just.
Mm-hmm.
Which I love. It's probably my favourite delivery of the entire episode.
Yeah.
I love the way he says it so much.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I have a different favourite delivery in this, but
I've got a lot, to be fair.
it's just. But I love kind of all the lines that he and Maz delivers.
That all of the conversations between Will and Hannibal, you and Maz, in this episode are phenomenal, and that one I think is especially the big hard hitter. So I'm gonna have a little look and see what other fun trivia have I got. I don't think it's especially interesting for this episode. Oh, first cannibal pun, official, not just in the script, cannibal pun of the series. Hannibal says to Jack, next time bring your wife. I'd love to have you both for dinner.
Yeah, I wrote that down. It's so brilliant.
Pausing it and being like, Kath, look. The Kath is my girlfriend, by the way. Kath, look, like he said it. He did the thing. He did a pun, and we were both just like laughing so much. Yeah,
He did the thing.
Oh, he did
the pun. Yeah.
Unfortunately, on the other side, no shots of Will in his boxers in this episode.
Boom. Disgusting.
Boo.
I don't think he does it as noticeably in this episode, but I still wanted to mention it in case I forget for another episode, which is they're having wine at dinner. Hannibal sniffs his wine like a fancy bastard that he is.
Mm-hmm.
However, in other episodes, you'll notice a bit more that when he sniffs his wine, he does it from a distance. Like he holds it quite far away from his face.
Oh.
Yeah.
Originally, Mads Mikkelsen just did it on a whim because he thought Hannibal was weird, so he just did a thing he thought was weird.
Okay.
But in retrospect, he said that it makes sense because he has an incredibly sensitive sense of smell. That's a thing about Hannibal. He has a ridiculous sense of smell. So if he was sniffing the wine too close, it would probably be too overwhelming.
Of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, it's a fun thing to look out for.
One of the other things I kind of picked up at that moment that I kind of wrote down actually, like when Jack is cutting and eating his meal, Hannibal slightly pauses eating for a moment and just kind of watches as in almost a glee that Jack is enjoying the food that he's making. And I think that is what a normal cook would do. But in this case where Hannibal has made something out of a human, it's kind of something that he's enjoying in that retrospect.
And he's like, can I bring you into my cult? Do you like the taste of human meat? Great, you'd be perfect for this job. Come with me. Join.
Yeah.
That is 100% correct. Just FYI.
Oh, amazing! I wrote Mads is fantastic as well in my notes because that moment of acting was like, oh wow.
So that is something he does when he has dinner with people a lot of the time. Is he will observe them take their first bite.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic!
my personal interpretation of that, because it's not something explained. So my what I think when that happens is that is him taking personal satisfaction and pleasure in the joke that he has that he's not sharing with anyone else.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and that I have tricked you into something and you don't know, and I've seen you and I feel powerful because of it.
I know something
Yeah,
you don't.
yeah.
Mhm.
And you love feeling powerful.
Another fun little bit of trivia is, so we see Brian Zeller saying "you used me" to Freddie Lounds when Jack's confronting her in the room. So we know that Brian Zeller is the guy who told her about Will Graham.
Yes.
Him saying "you used me" is not in the script.
Is it
Because
not?
because there was something else in the script that was cut. And originally, there was going to be a scene of them post-coital.
Oh.
So originally, there was going to be a scene of them having just had sex.
Okay. See, I like the fact that they cut that out because it doesn't do anything for the story. And
I agree. I think "you used me" is really good.
yeah, I kind of I kind of noticed that They're glaring at Lounds during that period. So like I clocked something like, there's more to this story, and then that line coming out just kind of solidified it for me.
Yeah, and now we know exactly how. She used him in multiple ways.
The annoying and evil person. Actually, no, I use it evil, but I'm like evil in like the mundane sense.
Remember what Will says in the first episode about Jack's museum name using the word evil as, overplayed and a bit silly.
Yeah, evil is very overplayed and a bit silly. And when I use evil, I mean in the mundane possible sense of evil, because I do not like evil as in the big bad evil, because it just doesn't work, because there's so much evil. And I think there's a personal quote of mine that I like that I forgot about, saying that evil is mundane.
One of the other extra little tidbits I've got is I can't remember the exact quote, but him and Hannibal mentioned the fact that Will isn't sure if he was trying to kill Eldon Stamets when he confronts him, because he shoots him in the shoulder and he's just like, I don't know if I was intending to kill him. In the script, Will actually says to Eldon Stamets, you should know I'm a terrible shot. I was trying to kill you.
Ooh.
Which I don't know if that's true or not. But
wow.
I feel like that feels a bit out of place, a bit out of character. I feel like Will's still trying to figure out, like, he's very clearly very confused in that conversation where he's like, I don't know what I was intending. I liked killing Hobbs. I feel like that conversation was him coming to that realization. So I feel like that line being out of it was a good thing, personally.
Yeah, I think the way they did it works a little better. I think just making it between him and Hannibal makes more sense. I think it's a little bit too in your face if they'd kept him saying it to Stamets.
Yeah, and I don't think like it's in Will's character to kind of boast, especially after the scene at the start where he's like, "Nope, stop that, don't clap."
Yes. So we're coming to the end of our 3 things.
Ooh.
Okay, so who would like to go first with their favourite quote, favourite moment, and next episode predictions?
Oh.
Don't all volunteer at once.
I can do, but Melissa, would you like to go first?
I think I went first last time, so
Okay, so I got like several. It was really difficult for me to choose this time round. I did write down 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go with the bad guy in this. And just because the way he delivers it as well, it's like, well, you would have if you walk through a field of mycelium. They know you are there. They know you are there. The spores reach for you as you walk by. I know who you are reaching for. I know Abigail Hobbs. But yeah, and like, then he goes on to saying you should have let me plant her and stuff like that. And it's just, I find that delivery is really great, but that quote in itself, because of my love of fungi and mycelium, it's just so fucking cool. Like, I think they were talking about mycelium earlier in the episode, where they're saying like mycelium kind of reaches out, has like a similar, structure to your neurons in your brain. That was one of my favorite quotes. And then I'm just gonna say, as an honorable mention, because I just fucking love this part. Come sit by me, tap, 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 tap. Because like, yes, sir, I'm coming straight away. Or, yes, granddaddy.
Be poor.
Oh, and my favourite single moment has to be closer to the beginning, when Hannibal and Will are talking. Will says to Hannibal that Abigail is considered a suspect by Jack, and and Hannibal asks, how does that make you feel? And then in the most bitch kind of way, Will just goes, "How does that make you feel?" I'm like, I was like, fantastic. So like that made me giggle, but also just like fawn over Will a bit because like I was like I was falling off my chair at that point. It's like, that's so hot. That was hot. And predictions for episode 2. Ooh, so going back to the fact that Abigail is considered a suspect, I feel like Abigail is no longer going to be a suspect because I feel like I just want to show a little bit of positivity for the next episode that they won't do that to my goodwill and they won't screw with his mind, and Abigail is going to come off as like another good person that Will can adopt into his family of dogs, and like he's got the surrogate daughter that he wanted.
Oh, okay. So I think quote-wise, I did really enjoy the first cannibal pun where he was saying to Jack, like, I could have you two for dinner. I was like, could you now? Like, literally, like I said, paused it and was screaming. I also did like the mirrors in your mind can reflect the best of yourself and not the worst in someone else. I literally was like, pause, rewind, let's play that again, because that was deep. That was really deep. And I was just like, oh, like, it kind of almost like took me a little bit out of it, but it was also very like Hannibal in a way, just like a random quirky something to just say there and then. And I was like, oh, quite nice.
That was a brilliant quote.
Yeah. My favourite moment, I think, was when Bitchface was in Hannibal's office. And he was literally so chill. This man, he was giving a bit of daddy. I think I was just being all like swooning over him at this point. It was just like so chill. She was like freaking out, being like, "What do you mean? Why do you want to look at my purse? Oh, fine, look in my purse. Give it to him." And he's just like, "Yeah, cool." Like casual Tuesday. Looks in the it's like looking in the purse. And it's like, "Yeah, delete this." And she's like, "What? Oh my god! I can't believe you figured this out!" And he's just like, "Yeah, delete it, please, silly bitch. Okay, thanks, bye." I thought that was really funny. Just the way that he was just chilling and just handling it. I was like, "Yes, daddy." And then predictions for the next episode. I feel like we will get a bit more of insight as to maybe about the copycat thing. What the shit is about that, because I feel like that and the whole thing of Abigail's suspect, I feel like those two not directly connected, but I think there's like cahoots in maybe we'll see some cracks in these what are they called, in these theories of just I don't think they're right. I think it's by the same person that are trying to project things onto Will, and I think maybe we see someone who's maybe a little bit responsible for it kind of show their actions. And also, obviously, everyone say it with me, 1, 2, 3, gay sex.
Gay sex. Yeah.
We can
We need
always
it.
Yes, it will be every single episode until we get it.
We finally get it.
And if not, there's a lot of fan fiction.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, quick honorable mention for next episode predictions for myself was, and I think I did mention this earlier, but Cannibal Network / Cannibal Rings.
Yes.
I love your Cannibal Ring
Say
theory.
everyone's coming up to like him, and he's just like standing on a podium, and everyone's like, "Yes, Daddy, yes, Lord, give us more jobs to do so we can feed you."
There's so many things I want to say about your theory that I can't say.
Dang it!
Dang it!
Nah, gotta wait.
I think we're on to something, Shaira. That's all I'm gonna say.
I might actually have to watch the third episode as soon as I finish this.
Right.
So my favourite moment is reflective of Shaira's favourite quote. My favourite moment is Eldon Sammich trying to explain his plan for Abigail Hobbs to Will Graham. For basically the same reason. I think his line delivery of that whole section, is so good. I love everything he says, and just his explanation is so ridiculous, but makes so much sense to him. I just love that entire scene. It's beautiful. I realised I went favourite moment before favourite quote. I'm fine with it.
Okay.
My favourite quote, I went back and forth because I love the entire paddle conversation. But instead, I went for... I love that whole conversation is my favourite quote. But I went for one line by Hannibal, which is, "Killing must feel good to God too. He does it all the time, and are we not created in his image?"
Yes.
Oh, that's a good quote.
It's some of the beginnings of my favourite Hannibal is religious canon.
Yeah.
And more, it's like a man who is so clearly believes in God, but that doesn't mean that he likes God, and I love that.
Yeah. That
Very
sounds cool.
powerful.
It's one of my favourite things about Hannibal.
I think he likes power. He likes having power over people. He doesn't like the fact that God has power over people. It's like, no,
I am
want to be
God.
Yeah, because what he also says is God's terrific. He dropped a church roof on 34 of his worshippers last Wednesday night in Texas while they sang a hymn. And Will says, did God feel good about that? And Hannibal says he felt powerful. That's another fun little trait we learn about Hannibal is he loves churches and he loves ruined church roofs specifically. This is a
It's not about the fact that there was going to be like loads of bodies and he could have his packed lunches for work for like the next like I don't know 6 months.
I think he has just a love of the nature of not really evil. I think just the juxtaposition of God is good, something terrible happens in his house of worship, and how contradictory that is, I think is something that gives him a thrill.
Yeah, that sounds. Yeah, it sounds like him.
And it's weirdly valid.
My next episode prediction is that Beverly Katz will reveal that she is having an affair with Dr. Alana Bloom.
Oh.
I kind of like this because we need more gay sex and definitely
Gay
lesbians.
sex.
Gay sex. Gay
And
sex.
lesbians.
And lesbians.
Woo!
Don't you wait. There are lesbians in Hannibal. Yeah, you're going to have to wait a while, I'm afraid. However, can confirm there are lesbians.
Fantastic.
And bisexuals.
Yeah, fantastic.
So I'm going to finish this now with a little sign-off like I did last time to just give some little teasy tastes about next episode.
Ooh.
Some people will just be hanging around while others play house. You better wake up. It's going to be a hard-hitting episode. Fate and Circumstance is an independent podcast brought to you by Felix Fanfaron Fern, Melisa Suzan, and Shaira Bambi. You can find and follow us on Twitter and Tumblr at HannibalPod. We are fans of the show NBC's Hannibal and do not own the rights to any of the materials discussed, merely appreciators. The music used in this podcast is Tchaikovsky's Op. No. 40 Waltz by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. Thanks for listening.